So we're talking about habitualization, and we are connecting it to institutionalization as a way to think about how we socially construct reality through school curriculum. And we were looking in the last screencast on page 53 of Berger and Luckman's The Social Construction of Reality at this quote on habitualization, where they say habitualization carries with it the important psychological gain that choices are narrowed. This frees the individual from the burden of all those decisions, providing a psychological relief that has its basis in man's undirected instinctual structure. Right? Habitualization provides the direction and the specialization of activity that is lacking in man's biological equipment, thus relieving the accumulation of tensions that result from undirected lives. In other words, this is a way to use that flexibility that we have as a result of our ability to structure our environments in a way to create socially constructed, my handwriting stinks, sorry, socially constructed structures and habits or forms of whatever kind that then allow us to move through life in, quite frankly, as they point out, a less stressful way. And by providing a stable background in which human activity may proceed with a minimum of decision making most of the time, it frees energy for such decisions as may be necessary on certain occasions. In other words, the background of habitualized activity opens up a foreground for deliberation and innovation. So the idea is that because we can stabilize, because we can fix some parts of our lives, and we can choose which ones that we fix versus which ones are flexible, that means that we have opened up the opportunity to be more deliberate and more innovative in areas that we value more or in ways that we find more interesting. So by creating a curriculum, I think I was using the math example in the last screencast, by creating a curriculum for math, let's say for 8th graders, we do something that creates a fixed, habitualized activity or value or knowledge base. That's supposed to be a K there at the beginning. Knowledge. Oh well, you know what it says. Right? Which allows us to be much more deliberate and innovative in the mathematics instruction or education or knowledge or decision making that occurs on top of that or through that. In other words, it's a way to manage what we know we're going to value and we're going to repeat, while making it possible to be flexible and innovative beyond that. Okay? Let me erase the ink from this slide so that we can move on. So, habitualization is beneficial. Keyword, how? What do you do while you undergo your daily routines? That's an interesting question. So all of us have daily routines, for example, that we carry out. I'll give you a silly example. I brush my teeth every day, twice a day. Right? So what do I do while I undergo a routine like that? There are lots of reasons, by the way, why I do that. Fresh breath, oral health, because I was taught to do that, because it is socially acceptable to be a toothbrusher. I may do it because I enjoy it. I may do it because I'm expected to do it. I mean, there are lots of reasons why I might have created that as a habit, and why as a society we're rather habitualized to brushing our teeth. I know, again, silly example. But what do you do while you undergo that? While you're brushing your teeth, what do you do? Are you a blank slate? Does your mind wander? Do you think of other ways to enhance your teeth brushing? I mean, there are lots of things that you could do. The question is to think about how this habitualization is beneficial. Well, one is, I don't have a huge, long debate with myself every morning and every night about whether or not I'm going to brush my teeth. I know I'm going to do it. I have a time set aside for it. I do it, I'm done. It doesn't take very long, but I do it just enough so that it accomplishes whatever it is it's supposed to accomplish. So let's think about how it's beneficial. Let's think of short-term or immediate. And let's think of long-term or delayed. So short-term or immediate results and long-term or delayed results. What are the short-term benefits, immediate results of brushing my teeth? Just to carry the example even further. I'm sure you could think of some of those. What are the long-term results or delayed benefits to brushing my teeth? Those exist as well. And what do I do in the meantime while I'm doing this daily routine? Right. Let me take the ink off again so we can read this next part. Page 54, habitualization makes it unnecessary for each situation to be defined anew, step by step. A large variety of situations may be subsumed under its predefinitions. The activity to be undertaken in these situations can then be anticipated. Even alternatives of conduct can be assigned standard weights. Okay, so habitualization makes it unnecessary for each situation to be defined anew. We don't have to redefine what the basic conditions for a math curriculum are every year. We might choose to do that if we're a school board or a teaching association, but usually that's not the case. Usually it's something that is defined. There are basic levels of competencies that are agreed upon in a particular community or system, and those stand for a while. They might be reviewed occasionally, but they won't be changed drastically every year. And that is a positive for us because it allows us to do lots of other things while we're undergoing those daily routines of math teaching and learning. Right? So it's beneficial in that we don't have to have a debate about math every year. Okay? So it's unnecessary for each situation to be defined anew, step by step. A large variety of situations may be subsumed under its predefinitions. Now, what does that mean? What is a large variety of situations that can be subsumed under the predefinitions of a particular mathematics, and I think I was using 8th grade mathematics curriculum as an example. What would that large variety of situations be? Well, it might be a new way of teaching that same curriculum. It might be a new way of engaging students with that curriculum. It might be a new way of thinking about that interdisciplinarily. I'm not sure if I spelled that correctly, but you get my point. It might be something else that would take that curriculum and flip it upside down, make it new to the students or the teachers, approach it from a different direction, right? Or approach it from many different directions at once. Make it more realistic and alive rather than being siloed as an abstract academic concept. Maybe there's some sort of practical application that could be used to teach the same math curriculum. What it does, though, by having an established math curriculum that is agreed upon and legitimized by a school board or by a teaching association or by a parent community group, whatever, by having that right there, having that agreed upon and stable in that way, fixed by design, it allows us to be flexible in many other ways that we might be thinking about that math curriculum. It allows us to establish a basis of reality related to what the basic competencies in math for 8th graders is, and then to use that basis of reality as a fixed foundation for then structuring the math education for 8th graders around it in ways that can be unique or new or innovative or deliberate and might expand or improve upon just a basic knowledge of whatever that 8th grade math curriculum is. So it makes life predictable, but in ways that allow for flexibility. Let's take a look at page 54. They start to talk about institutionalization, and they say institutionalization occurs whenever there is a reciprocal typification of habitualized actions by types of actors. Reciprocal typification of habitualized actions by types of actors. Those are 3 important components. Put differently, any such typification is an institution. What must be stressed is the reciprocity of institutional typifications and the typicality of not only the actions but also the actors in institutions. The typifications of habitualized actions that constitute institutions are always shared ones. Ooh, that's important. They are available to all the members of the particular social group in question, and the institution itself typifies individual actors as well as individual actions. The institution posits that actions of type X will be performed by actors of type X. Now, one thing to recognize right off the bat is one that we have a reciprocal typification, and we're going to need to talk a little bit about what that means. Right? So what is a typification? Well, it comes from the idea of a type. There's a particular type of activity or behavior that occurs. We know that it is typed because it is habitualized, and we just spent a long time talking about habitualization. And it has this added component that there are types of actors that participate in those actions or behaviors. And if we go all the way down here to the end, looking at this last sentence, the institution posits that actions of type X will be performed by actors of type X. All right, let's go back to school. You are an 8th grade student. What do we know about the kinds of activity and behavior that you will be participating in your classes at your school? Right? An 8th grade student, do we have any ideas about the kinds or types of actions and behaviors that will be performed by 8th grade students? Well, yes, we do actually. In fact, I think if you were to think about it for a while, you could make a list of at least 10 different kinds of activities or behaviors that 8th grade students would be expected to perform in at least an American 8th grade classroom, for those of you who are from the US. Well, that's really interesting. Does that mean that all of those actions are good or the best or correct? Absolutely not. Does it mean that we can expect that those will be performed and those are, whether they're good or bad, are still the norm? I think we can. In fact, I think it's pretty much expected that we will. So, when we talk about institutionalization, we are already incorporating the idea of habitualization, but what we're adding to it is that there are these types of actors that are going to participate in particular habitualized actions. That is very interesting. And that there's this reciprocal typification. Now, we haven't talked very much about that just yet, but I would like for you to think about how you might define that reciprocal typification. Let me just say that I think that if we talk about the actions of type X and the actors of type X, let's use those, the actors of type X and the actions of type X. And if we have these two groups, reciprocal, the actions act on the actors act on the actions. We can go back and forth like that. That might be one way to think about it. I'm interested in how you think about it, or what you think it means. And what might it mean for curriculum? What a shock. I'm going to pause here and come back with the next screencast.